I like your clothes today, Matthew.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Interesting, the tuck in, kind of like a Peaky Blinders.
Well, here's the thing. All right, yeah. So he's giving me crap about the fact that my shirt is tucked in. Here's what happens. All right, F you, because I'm gonna go there. Screw you guys. Hang on, I'm gonna show you guys. All right, so look, you see this pack right here? That's like my microphone pack and everything like that. And what happens is if I don't have the shirt tucked in, it digs into my skin, is what it is. And it's cold and it's metal and it hurts. And so then I'm leaning back and I'm like, oh! And so anyway, I could decide to either tuck my shirt in or play through pain. And you know what? Some of us aren't strong enough to do that.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Happy Friday. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Connor Rogers alongside Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher.
Quarter zip today, Matthew.
Yeah,
a little blue on blue.
Quarter zip, and you know what? I just want to brag here. Untucked.
Untucked.
Oh.
That's right.
Thoughts on the blue on blue, Connor? Is the blau on blau, as they say in Germany?
Is that good? Does that blue on blue not work?
Yeah, it's fine. It's a lot
Just
of blue.
okay.
It was picked out by the NBC wardrobe department.
That's
So
why I'm
just
not
so you
saying
know,
anything.
That's smart.
Stephanie does a great job.
Stephanie does a great job.
So, no.
So I
can't-
put it on without
I hate
question.
that. It actually bothers me that I can't pile on you. That's because Stephanie dressed you.
That's
You dressed
right.
yourself. Well,
Yeah.
it would have been fair game.
I showed up
this
in a
place.
crappy sweatshirt, but Stephanie took care of me, and this is what she came up with today. And I think I look lovely.
No, I think it's good.
I'm much like I'm going to tell you. Diane did my makeup, Stephanie did wardrobe, and both of them, God bless them, did as much as they could with what little I've given them to work with. Do you understand that? I give them very little to work with.
Chicken
And
salad, Adam?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. They're both miracle workers, if you ask me.
It's like Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs wide receivers.
That's a really good comparison. You got an
That's
NBA
actually
one
pretty
for us?
good, pretty good segue there. Yeah, exactly. Just, making magic out of, very little there.
Yes.
We have a
indeed.
guest coming on this show today that
We do?
I wonder if he's going to outdress you in Denny Carter.
Oh, Denny Carter's coming up. That's right.
I totally forgot. We talked about this an hour ago. Literally an hour ago.
It's actually Deebo Samuel again.
Yes.
He's back.
Yeah, he wants to
We
be
like
decoy
Deebo.
again. So
Who's been on the show more, Deebo Samuel or Denny Carter? It's close.
I think
close.
it's 2-2.
Yeah.
It might be. There's a good chance. All right.
Anyway, we love Deebo Samuel here. We like Denny Carter.
Yeah.
So
Tolerate Denny
yeah, we
Carter.
tolerate Denny Carter. Just like
man.
NBC tolerates me. All right. Let's all right,
jump
I
right
think
into
we've
the Rotoworld
avoided
players.
talking about last night's whatever that
We
was.
tried really hard.
As soon as it was. So what do we have to do? We have to do what is it, player news?
We do have to do the player news, which coincides with last night's game.
Again,
So
I
here's,
really should start paying attention during the meetings.
Yeah, it's okay. It's you're driving sometimes. I'd rather you pay
100%.
attention to the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sometimes showering.
Sometimes I
showering.
take the meeting in the shower. Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
100%.
All right, let's jump into the
Terrifying.
Rotoworld player news. Please give me the animation.
I
I'm begging
always
you
keep
at
the
this
camera
point.
off. It's
There it
just
is.
my voice.
There it is. For all your player news, go to NBCSports.com.
It's just my voice.
We literally have to start with what was Thursday Night Football in some form or the other. The Chiefs beat the Broncos in what you can call a football game, and Patrick Mahomes talked about his offense after the game. Take a listen.
I thought we did a great job of staying patient, getting the ball down the field, but in this league, 3 points, 7 points is just such a big difference. And so if we found a way to execute in the red zone and score those touchdowns, we'd come away feeling great. But since we didn't, we have a lot of room to improve. And so that's just something that we got to continue to work on, is just putting a full game together. I think we've had spurts of playing good in the middle of the field. We've had spurts of playing good in the red zone. But let's put a full game together and see what we can do.
So here's the stat line last night, guys, from the receiving weapons of Kansas City. Not a surprise here, Jay. 9 targets and 9 catches for Travis Kelce, over 100 yards. And then really just, I'll give you this one, Jay. You were on Rashee Rice. You thought the receiving prop was way too low. You were right. He more than doubled it. So Rashee Rice kind of trending the right way in a receiving group that needs somebody to break out.
Yeah, still only 4 targets for Rashee Rice out of 39 across the whole team. So he got the yards, but still would like to see more involvement from him. I guess Travis Kelce is the big story on the Chiefs side. Just very little happened in this game. I think actually the most consequential play of the whole game was a Patrick Mahomes 15-yard scramble on 3rd down. That's what we were dealing with. And this Chiefs offense, I feel like they just mess around sometimes, evidenced by the lateral, as you're seeing on your screen.
They're
It's
extremely
like,
cheeky.
You know, we
It was-
play
yeah, it
in the
was-
Super Bowl every year. What are we going to do Thursday night against Denver?
It was just sort of a snoozy game. I mean, honestly, I thought they should have shown Taylor Swift more. Honestly, that's...
Did they hit the under?
Yeah, they did. I believe the under hit, actually,
played out?
on
All right.
that. Al Michaels actually referenced that on air, which was pretty funny. Kelce did a great job. It was weird how open he was, just in their zone. It was like you guys
That's
know
Travis
that.
Kelce.
Yeah, this.
Right.
I don't know what the Broncos
welcome to the
are
Denver
doing.
defense. They forgot Breece Hall was on the Jets. So yeah.
Although, in fairness, like that loss wasn't on the Broncos defense.
Right.
I mean, they held the Chiefs to 19 points on the road on a short week. Like, you'd take that. I mean, that's what's crazy is that, like, yes, it was weird that, Kelce was wide open, but they did a good job. They got after Mahomes. It wasn't a great game. We'll talk about Mahomes in a second. The one thing I want to say about Rashee Rice is that the positives are his snaps increased. He played 47% of the snaps last night compared with 30% the week before. So it's trending in the right direction. Justin Watson left this game with a pretty bad injury. Looks like he's going to be out for a while. And not that Justin Watson was a huge part of this offense, but that's one of those wide receivers that was running routes and getting downfield. And so does that along with Rice's continued improvement open up more opportunity for Rashee Rice? We've said it all along. We've been saying it for weeks. But if there's a Chiefs pass catcher not named Travis Kelce that we sort of like, it is Rashee Rice, who remains a priority stash and I think is usable. We talked about him. He made the love list this week. I think he'll take 4 for 72. Decent game there as well. And you're right, he crushed the prop. That was a great call by you, Jay Croucher. The two things for me from this game, guys, other than Rice, was on the positive side, Isaiah Pacheco is the guy.
Yep.
Over 20 touches in this game. I like the fact that he's involved in the passing game. 15% target share, targeted on 33% of his routes. That 15% target share, by the way, was the highest in a game so far this season. His second straight game with over 60% of the snaps and 20-plus touches on a short week. I really like that. Just seeing him bounce back and getting that kind of usage. Yes, you see a little bit of CEH. You see a little bit of Jerick McKinnon. But there's no question Isaiah Pacheco is the guy in this offense. He's a mid-tier RB2 with weekly RB1 upside. He's the starting running back on, I don't want to say one of the best offenses in football because it's no longer one of the best offenses in football.
Should get there at some point.
Should get there. It's an above-average offense that's going to be in scoring position more often than not.
So funny watching Pacheco run compared to like Devon Achane and just the difference in economy of movement. Isaiah Pacheco makes it look like it's hard to be a running back in the NFL, but he's still effective, and the fact that he got that game, he got that work as a pass catcher, I think bodes pretty well going forward, Connor.
It's almost stomping around his running style. A lot of
arm movement.
pumping arms.
I feel like
compare
he's
his runs to Breece Hall. Like Breece Hall just gliding along the field.
Yeah. I feel like if I was an NFL running back, I'd be much more closer to Isaiah Pacheco, kind of just, like a lot slower and a lot like much easier to bring down.
Yeah.
But just, kind of that plodding sort of like.
It's like someone's stolen his bicycle in a car and he's chasing after the car to get his bicycle back. Like it just does. It's not very graceful.
Right.
But it is effective. And he's clearly the guy.
It's like me in the commissary on Free Popcorn Day. Like I'm just,
I'm
pushing through PAs.
I'm not ready to talk about your popcorn
We needed some
performance.
B-roll of that at some point. It's a sight.
Every Wednesday here at the NBC Sports Commissary, it's Free Popcorn Day. And I got to tell you something. Your boy Matty loves himself some popcorn. And I think the only thing I love more than popcorn is free popcorn. I have to tell you.
Well, here's the thing, is that you're a veteran of the free popcorn process, because what you do when you buy it, you build like a fort of napkins around the opening to the popcorn. And it's just when you spill it, you're preparing for the spills. I've never seen someone preemptively prepare for their own spillage.
Yeah. I'll be like, well, I don't want to waste a kernel. I mean, exactly. Like on the dirty table and everything like that. And what happens is like they give you these small little bags, and so you got to shove it in there, and so it's overflowing a little bit.
I was with them the day they changed bag size. They decreased, and he walked up to the machine and said they decreased the bag size.
I was upset.
Yeah. Watching you eat popcorn is deeply unsettling. Deeply unsettling.
Good scouting eye for the decrease in volume, though.
Here, I just want to give you an idea of how my mind works. Jay says it's deeply unsettling. So the way I go is you'd think most people would be like, I should not eat popcorn around Jay anymore. The way my mind goes is I need to make a point of always eating popcorn around Jay now.
Yes.
I'm going to come into meetings like exactly. 1,000%.
Very bad.
In the Denver backfield, Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin.
Wait, hang on. Before we move on to Denver real quickly.
What do you got? I just spent 40 minutes on popcorn and 2 minutes on Isaiah Pacheco, but we're not
Welcome
done.
to the show. Are you guys concerned at all about Patrick Mahomes? Because like I said 2 weeks ago, this is what I said. I know he hasn't been great. He's been good. Like 2 weeks ago, heading into the Minnesota game, he was the 9th best quarterback in fantasy, which was fine. But you drafted him to be a top 3 guy, and I literally said, hey, here's your last chance to buy low, because look at their next 4. Minnesota, Denver, the Chargers, and then Denver again. Like he's about ready to go off. This whole offense is just going to turn another gear. Your last chance to buy low is before that Minnesota game. And I think actually you can still buy low because he was good, not great against Minnesota. He was good, not great against Denver last night. Again, like what we thought going into the game was the worst defense in the NFL. And like you heard Mahomes from the sound earlier in the show talk about like they're just not executing at the level they expect.
Yep. I'm not concerned because think about this. Think about how many drop passes there were against Detroit on opening night. His stats would be so much better across the board if Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore just could have caught one of their almost like 7 drops or something absurd. And then secondly, like he played well against Jacksonville, Chicago. Jets have a really good pass defense. Minnesota, he played well. And then last night they were 4 of 14 on 3rd and 4th down. They were just messing around. These direct snaps to Kadarius Toney, like they just didn't feel like they were fully engaged. And to me, the biggest thing about Mahomes going forward is I believe in Rashee Rice. I think that is a legitimate weapon for him. And Kelce is fully healthy, clearly. He's still the same guy. He's too good.
Oh, yeah.
And they will pick it up.
Where are you? I mean, like
a little mixed bag because there's just bad decision making while he's getting used to a totally different cast of characters outside of Kelce. But I still side with Jay. You always go to it's Patrick Mahomes and it's Andy Reid,
right?
And they're going to be okay. But I think what you're trying to dial in on, Barry, we didn't draft Patrick Mahomes to be fine.
That's the point. Exactly.
That's the, like,
you used a 3rd or 4th round pick on him to be a top 3 guy.
That's
because if you wanted fine, you'd have gotten like whatever. You'd have waited and gotten Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert 3 or 4 rounds later, by the way. Both of whom might be as good, if not better, than Mahomes at this point.
That's where I'm more hung up, that I look at quarterbacks around the league that just have to do more, like Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert is the perfect example of that, who was not drafted before Patrick Mahomes. So
he's still throwing it, he's thrown it 40 times the past couple of games. Also, I think Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney are like better than Juju and MVS last year. I think that there's no reason why he can't be the guy that he was last year.
I'll just say that I don't know if I have him, I'm not panicking, but I don't know that I'm actively trying to trade for him, quote unquote, buying low. But I think like if I were ranking for the rest of the season as of today, I think he's like QB 5 or 6, which again is still good, but not. He had number 1 quarterback in fantasy upside at the beginning of the season. I'm not sure he's there yet anymore.
No surprise in the game they were trailing. Not a ton going for the Denver backfield. Javonte Williams was back. He got 10 carries for 52 yards. Jaleel McLaughlin remains a thing with that 41% snap rate. He gets 7 carries and also adds in 2 catches. But it just kind of goes back to the point, Matthew. The Broncos are going to be trailing in a lot of games, and it could impact Javonte's volume. McLaughlin, as a pass catcher, maybe not so much, but still only 2 catches last night.
He led the team in snaps, 41% snap rate, 3rd straight game with at least 9 touches for Jaleel McLaughlin, the rookie. But yeah, to me, the positive takeaway here is Javonte Williams looked good. He looked healthy. Like, this is somebody that obviously came off of a major injury. Then we didn't know how bad that was going to be. He missed the game last week, but now on a short week, he's back. 10 for 52. He gets the 2-point conversion, which you like as well. Look, he hasn't been what you drafted him to be. Single-digit fantasy points in every game this season, including last night as well. And if there's one red flag, so I thought the positives is that he came back, he looked healthy, he looked like Javonte Williams. The negatives is that he had 0 targets. The emergence of Jaleel McLaughlin makes you think that, and they already have P. Ryan, who's going to play enough to just be annoying to anyone that has either one of those guys. That the concern there is just like, well, if Javonte Williams is splitting the touches and not getting any passing down work, then he becomes really kind of a touchdown-dependent flex, which is the same what McLaughlin is. I don't know that there's anyone on the Broncos offense that you feel good about starting moving forward. Like Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, we'll talk about them in a second, but like if it's a 3-headed committee on kind of a low-volume offense, I guess Russell Wilson in a 12 or 14-team league is like a passable starting quarterback. You don't feel great about. That was his worst game of the year last night, fantasy-wise. But this doesn't feel like an offense that you can trust. Marvin Mims played 12 snaps last. I mean, like,
it's baffling. And I think the concern would be is that I didn't know that Denver had that type of low floor on offense in their passing game, because Wilson has been good statistically to this point. He's been able to fill it up in garbage time as well. And then last night the Chiefs have a good defense. This might be the best defense of the Mahomes era, but this isn't the Browns or the 49ers, and they couldn't do anything against them.
Connor, it was interesting. I was so on my way in today, I was listening to my buddy Dwayne McFarland over at Fantasy Life, and he was saying his take was, he thinks Sean Payton is basically making Russell Wilson try to be Drew Brees. That's the offense that they're running there, and he's like, he ain't Drew Brees. And that's no disrespect to Russell Wilson, but like the style of game Russell Wilson is a deep ball thrower. He's not a short timing guy.
No,
I mean,
not at
like
all.
a short pass timing guy.
No, he's going to hold the ball a lot
Right.
longer, which probably drives Sean Payton nuts. But you knew what you're getting with Russell Wilson. Obviously, Sean Payton wasn't there for that acquisition, but Russ is going to hold the ball. I think the biggest problem with Russ right now is he still thinks he's the athlete he was 5 years ago, and that's how they lost the end of the game to the Jets. You saw it a couple of times last night. He thinks he can run away from situations that he no longer can run away from, and maybe that's starting to hurt the deep passing game when he starts to scramble as well. That's a bad match, though. Him and Sean Payton is a bad match. I don't even think it's going to be a thing next season. I think that's how bad it is.
Maybe Nathaniel Hackett isn't so bad after all.
Yeah.
Broncos are 1-5.
Or, by the way, maybe Sean Payton is going, listen, we can get out of Russell's contract after this year, and if I keep doing this, I got a shot at Caleb Williams next year. And so maybe Sean Payton's playing chess while we're all playing checkers.
Yep.
I'm just saying, there's a lot going on there, right? I mean, they're in the mix now for Caleb Williams.
When he was
and
out of
Drake May.
coaching, he called Caleb Williams generational on television.
So.
And it was like, watch out for teams that might tank for a guy like this.
Now
It's very
now
ironic.
it's going to be my team.
It's very ironic. So, all right, let's close it out with the
You
Denver.
hear that, Commanders? That's a challenge.
Yes.
We can do it.
Yeah. Let's get to the Denver pass catchers real quick. Courtland Sutton's night saved by the touchdown catch.
Yeah.
Before-
Unbelievable catch, by the way.
Amazing. Yeah.
Unbelievable. By the way, Courtland Sutton drinks free because, I don't know how he came down with it and kept control all the way to the ground. So he bailed out fantasy managers and gave the Broncos a sign of life. Look at this catch for those of you watching on Peacock. Just an unbelievable one-handed catch. He's holding the defense, like he's holding the guy off with his left arm and brings it in with the elbow of his right, gets the knee down, maintains possession. This is just an unbelievable catch. And I feel like if this guy was a bigger star, more people would be making noise about this catch. That's one of the best catches I've ever seen.
I hope he gets traded at the deadline because I think Courtland Sutton can be a much better player than what we've seen from him recently in Denver.
Think about the attention that Garrett Wilson's catch against the Bills got compared to
Right.
that. Garrett Wilson basically committed pass interference to shove Trey White away, I think. Courtland Sutton, that was a magnificent catch. And yeah, hopefully he finds a better landing spot.
So anyway, he drinks free. But by the way, with that touchdown, he still had under 15 fantasy points, right? The positives are he's getting the looks in the end zone. He's a big-bodied guy. He is sort of the DK Metcalf, if you will, for Russell Wilson. Fourth receiving touchdown in 6 games so far this year. He had the second highest target share in a game this year. That's a positive. But again, still 6 or fewer targets in 4 to 6 games. Under 50 receiving yards in 4 to 6 games. Needed the touchdown to bail him out. Just 4 for 46 in this game. The whole passing offense looks brutal. But you'd rather these days be Courtland Sutton than Jerry Jeudy, who had a tough day at the office. And it started with Steve Smith calling him out, Connor.
Yeah, Steve Smith's exact quote was, "Don't trade for Jerry Jeudy because he is mentally unable to handle constructive criticism, who watch specifically if you can be a wide receiver. He's a tier 3, and Jeudy got asked about this after the game, so listen in.
Jerry, a little bit of drama before the game with Steve Smith Sr. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that right now.
Man, that was a tough loss, man. I feel like at the end of the game, I feel like we could have got there, but, they had a good drive at the end.
Jerry, Steve Smith said he had some kind of conversation with you before the game. Did that not go well, or based on what he said on air on NFL Network?
I don't remember that. But like I said, it was a close game. We just got to finish.
Jeudy obviously not interested in...
He said he didn't remember it, although
Yeah.
there's video of him jumping around and seemingly, yelling or direct. I don't know what's going on there. It's weird.
I don't think anyone does right now.
I-
It's a very bizarre situation. Feels a little personal right now.
It definitely feels a little bit personal, and I'm just curious. What I'm curious about is look, Steve Smith Sr. has earned the right to criticize a wide receiver in the NFL. He's a borderline Hall of Famer. He was elite when he played in the league. And so I'm just trying to think of who we could legitimately criticize. Who's at our is there a long snapper, a backup long snapper that we could take on?
Nope.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Tier 3 is such a piercing criticism.
Yeah. I'd love to know who else is in tier 3.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's a tough situation. It's certainly I'm not the evaluator of talent that Steve Smith is. I'm not going to sit here and try to disagree with Steve Smith about playing wide receiver in the NFL, right? I mean, obviously, he's one of the all-time greats. Having said that, I do feel like Jerry Jeudy, he struggled with some injuries, which I don't know are necessarily his fault. He's also had really poor quarterback play.
Yep.
This is the first time that he's had a quarterback where you feel okay. And even then, Russell hasn't been Russell since he's gotten to Denver either. So I don't know how much of this is on, I think there's a lot of extenuating circumstances. Either way, it's a bad scene in Denver, and hopefully hopefully it gets better, but I don't know if it gets better anytime soon. The one thing I will say is that Jeudy and Sutton have been rumored to be on the trade block as well. And again, obviously with the season not going the way Denver wants. So I'm not as frustrating as it is with Marvin Mims. I'm not dropping him just yet. I want to see what happens at the trade deadline. He's too talented, has too much upside, and I feel like they've got to get him on the field, especially if they're playing for next year.
Let's jump into the notable injuries we're tracking. We had some news drop right before we sat down to do the show. Deshaun Watson, who hasn't been practicing with the shoulder injury, he is out. He will not play. It'll be P.J. Walker against the 49ers. Daniel Jones is also out. It'll be Tyrod Taylor on Sunday Night Football. Revenge game scenario against the Buffalo Bills. The good news front, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Austin Eckler, they have practiced in full. Saquon Barkley and T. Higgins, we think both will play. They're limited in practice, but they're working their way back.
They're trending in the right way. Exactly. Deshaun Watson, just before we went on air, he's been officially ruled out. Yep. So not only did not practice on Thursday, but he's officially been ruled out. P.J. Walker will get the start for the Cleveland Browns. Ideally, you're not starting any one of the Browns in a bad weather game against the Niners if you can help it as well. Sam LaPorta, the two ones that I want to bring up there are on the Lions, right? So Sam LaPorta, out of the blue, Connor, shows up on the injury report yesterday.
A lot of calf injuries this year. A lot of calf injuries, which could mean a couple things. Could be a calf strain, and this isn't the case with LaPorta, but we've also seen guys have Achilles tears when it looks like a calf injury. So that's a scary one. Some guys that I've played that I've talked to and asked about the calf injuries, they say there's nothing you could do. You just have to rest. So it feels like it would almost be a surprise if LaPorta plays, unless this was just a rest injury.
Yeah, particularly just this early in the season, they're in a really strong position. Maybe if it was week 18 to win the division or something, but I would expect they won't push him too much. With Deshaun out.
Especially because they're getting Amon-Ra St. Brown back, which helps the passing attack.
Yeah, and I wonder when Jameson Williams gets a little more involved as well.
With Deshaun out, the look-ahead line on that game, San Francisco-Cleveland, was 2.5. San Francisco favored. That line is now 10. P.J. Walker's passing yards are set at 166.5. Jerome Ford's rushing yards, their number one running back, 36.5. So just no yards available for the Cleveland Browns.
Amari Cooper, I bet you Amari Cooper's probably like 45 would be my guess.
Cool, Matthew. He's 41.5.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Not bad.
By the way, and I wouldn't mind taking the under on any of those. Like I think it's probably that's just an ugly game that I want to avoid. But like again, P.J. Walker hasn't been in camp with them. Like he just came to the team. And maybe there's a Josh Dobbs situation, but that's a tough spot to make your first start against the Niners in bad weather.
Yeah.
With Jahmyr Gibbs not practicing this week so far with the hamstring, Lions coach Dan Campbell spoke Wednesday on if they're getting.
Look at my Lions blue, by the way.
That's right.
There you go.
Lions blue and Charger powder blue underneath the Lions blue.
I think so.
Each conference.
Are you questioning Stephanie?
No, I'm actually applauding getting both the AFC and NFC involved. We're a very fair show. Campbell on David Montgomery said, to me, that type of guy, he carries the load.
Yeah.
Was there ever
a match
made in heaven?
Do we have the sound? I think we have the sound. I thought we have the sound, right?
That was the leading quote. We do have the sound. Let's take a listen to Dan
Let's
Campbell.
listen to head coach Dan
I'm so
Campbell.
distracted by your shades of blues.
Were you looking at my eyes?
To me, that type of guy is always going to be he carries the load. And the other one is the changeup. He's going to get plenty of touches. That doesn't mean those are carries, though. That could be in the pass game. That could be gadgets. That could be. But to me, you always want a guy who man, he can, if you need it, he can take on 20, 25, 30 carries. And he has been all of that and then some.
Dan Campbell, very old school coach. Dan
Commanding
Montgomery,
presence.
old
Keep
school
waiting
player.
for him to break into speech to Keanu Reeves and the Replacements or something. He's just such a film character. But yeah, clearly, we talked about this a lot in the preseason.
We fight for that inch.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
A little Al Pacino too.
Sunday. Conflating your turn of the century football films that were kind of not great films overall, but entertaining in their own right.
Any Given Sunday is better than the Replacements. I will die on that hill.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in Any Given Sunday. The Jamie Foxx music video, there's a lot of moments.
Cameron Diaz is the owner. I'm with you. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not saying it's a great movie. There are flaws there.
It's entertaining.
There's flaws there. But versus the Replacements?
Oh yeah, the Replacements is like fun. It's not it's not There Will Be Blood or anything. It's the Replacements.
We always get back to Daniel Day-Lewis on this show. It's really remarkable. Like we always end there.
Yeah, exactly.
The end point's Daniel Day-Lewis.
To Daniel Day-Lewis. So anyway, what we're talking here about is Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. First off, by the way, so fantasy Twitter is like just going crazy about this particular quote. I'm just like, guys, we've known this, and we said this on this show throughout the preseason, which is, I remember coming on this show and saying, first off, at cost, I prefer Dave Montgomery to Jahmyr Gibbs. Dave Montgomery was on my love list. So was Jahmyr Gibbs. We'll get to that in a second. But whatever. Like I said, Dave, at cost, I prefer Dave Montgomery to Jahmyr Gibbs. We liked him a lot. I remember talking to the fact that Jason Garrett, our colleague, went to interview Dan Campbell early in the preseason because we had the Lions-Chiefs on Thursday night, and that interview aired as part of Football Night in America. And he said he was at Lions camp for a couple of days as part of the interview, and said they love David Montgomery. They want to run the ball. I remember saying multiple times in the preseason, guys, we're going to look up a year from now. He's going to have 250 touches. They just want to run this guy. He's an old school football coach. With Jahmyr Gibbs out in week 5, Dave Montgomery, 23 touches, 75% of the snaps, 63% of the rushes. He's going to be a bell cow guy. He's a locked-in RB1. And the last thing I'll say here is that I'm not panicking yet on Jahmyr Gibbs. He's just they want to kill the Lions for using the 12th overall pick on Jahmyr Gibbs, and whatever. That's a football decision, and you can make an argument as to whether that's right or not. But for fantasy, while he may not return the value of what you drafted him to be, I think he's still going to be a useful piece. People forget that DeAndre Swift was a top 15 running back on a points-per-game basis in the same offense last year, and I think Gibbs has the chance to be as good as Swift was, if not better, as a pass catcher. I mean, I know Swift is doing awesome this year in Philly, but that's my take here. I'm not ready to panic on Gibbs yet.
Yeah, and this is a team that they want to run the ball in general. I think that people think that's like the Kyle Shanahan method, but in San Francisco, actually, they pass the ball over expectation more than you'd expect. In Detroit, they're not hiding Jared Goff, but they don't want to give Jared Goff too much to do, and I think that there will be room for both of these running backs.
Well, the strength of that team is the offensive line,
Yep.
and I mean they know that, and so they
built it.
That's how they built it.
First round picks on that group. Yep. Maximize your strengths. That's what the Lions are doing.
1,000%. Yeah.
So, all right.
Set up, play action.
And with that, guys, it's time to welcome on our friend, our colleague, Denny Carter. It's the Regression Files. Hey, Denny, how you doing?
Ha-ha!
Hey, guys. Doing well. Enjoying the David Montgomery talk because I was also very much on Montgomery early in the season. And I didn't really get the Gibbs talk, but I let the folks talk. Now they're in shambles, it seems.
Yeah. Hey, Denny, there was some concern at the beginning of the show that you might be outdressing me, and I just would like to thank you for not doing that at all. I appreciate that.
I'm dressed down, Matthew. Dressed down. I have my old shirt on, my Clash T-shirt. You know.
What's a Clash T-shirt?
The Clash.
The Clash.
Oh, the Clash. The band, The Clash. Okay. I thought it was a Clash T-shirt. Like it was like, is that some sort of like jazzercise class or something? Like,
come on, you were like 30 when they were around.
Well, because usually we'd say The Clash, not my Clash T-shirt.
That's right. Danny will do better next time.
Yeah, okay. We'll see if there is a next time.
That.
We'll see if there is a next time. Denny, we always love having you on. You do great work for us over at Rotoworld.com, and you write a column called The Regression Files, right, Connor?
Exactly. Players, right, Connor?
I have to do everyone's job.
Players who are overproducing or underproducing based on their workload, playing time, and opportunity. If you needed a reminder, Denny's been on with us. We've done this before. But Denny, let's start with some negative regression this week from the column. Who you got for us?
Yeah, so I hate to do this to Drake London, folks, because he had a nice game last week against Houston, 6 catches for 67 yards. He had a touchdown the week before in London, I believe. So things are looking up in a way for Drake London. But in my column, I just wanted to remind folks that the Falcons are still by far the run heaviest offense in the league. It doesn't matter really what game script is. A lot of London's production last week against Houston came in the final 2 or 3 minutes when the Falcons were, playing hair on fire offense, trying to get the ball downfield, trying to score and come back. And they actually did, come back and win, beat the Texans. So good for them. Good for Drake London, but it really is a situation where you need things to break just right in order to get, wide receiver 3 production out of Drake London, and that's not good, guys.
Disappointing that Denny missed the Drake London calling gag sitting there after mentioning the Clash, but that's okay, Denny. You'll get that.
I can't believe that.
Sometimes it was like sitting right there for you, Denny. Yeah. You know who's going to be a positive regression next week is Denny's
Denny
jokes.
Carter,
yeah, exactly. My only, listen. I like the call. I'm down on the entire Falcons offense. I'm glad you brought this up without Lawrence Jackson here because he would, defend Drake London and Desmond Ridder to the hilt. My only thing that I'll say is What if he has Emmanuel Forbes on him?
Say 2 words for you.
Yeah, I mean,
Emmanuel
like,
Forbes.
that's the thing. Desmond Ridder has played well at home this year. All jokes aside, the Washington secondary has been very burnable. I hope they have been, nothing, not to pile on the kid, but it has been a struggle transitioning to the NFL for Emmanuel Forbes, the Commanders' first-round rookie. And so I hope that they sit him down and make some adjustments given how, last Thursday night's game went.
Right.
But having said that, I'm with you, in terms of I don't feel great about any part of the passing offense. I know we saw the one game, but it just doesn't feel great here.
No.
You probably have to play London this week against Washington. It's bad defense. Sorry, Matthew, you know that. And if he goes against Forbes, we're talking about a difference of like 40 or 50 pounds. Like we saw A.J. Brown just get away with everything against the secondary. So, you're probably playing him. I just want to tamp down expectations a little bit. That's what I'm here for.
No, and I think, listen, I'm at wide receiver 40 this week, so I'm with you, Denny. Like, I think he's borderline playable depending on how deep your league and how hurt you are or, bye week issues you have. But I think your overall point is like, don't think the guy that everyone drafted in the 20 to 30 range of wide receivers is suddenly back, that's that guy going forward, because I don't think that offense is built that way. He might have an okay game this Sunday, but I think for the future, it's not all blue skies for Drake London, which some of his managers may have felt like after last week, which I think is your point.
Denny, on a lighter note, how about a positive regression candidate heading into the weekend?
Yeah, so Jonathan Mingo is getting really quite unlucky, and some of that lack of luck has to do with the Panthers just being bad. But he has almost 25% of the Panthers' air yards in the games he's played this year. That hasn't amounted to much, but Jonathan Mingo has the lowest rate of catchable balls from both Andy Dalton and Bryce Young. And as far as like unconverted air yards, we love talking about air yards. You can't feed your family with air yards. I've tried. But yeah, it is a good signal as to who is getting opportunity downfield. Jonathan Mingo is getting those looks downfield. If they start converting, I think Mingo can suffice as, a wide receiver 3. Now, Adam Thielen's still going to be the top target here. You're playing him pretty much no matter what, especially in PPR. But don't forget about Mingo, especially if you're kind of hard pressed on a bye week.
Yeah, Denny, I like this call for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think they're getting blown out after the first half against the Dolphins, and they're going to be throwing the ball, and Mingo is simply going to be on the field. Number two, when you look at his prospect profile, they got to get him involved in manufactured touches where he can make plays after the catch. That's what he was best at under Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and it would make life a little bit easier on Bryce Young, who simply will get better over time. I know it's been a brutal start for him, but I think Mingo will be a big part of that as well. So I'm a fan of that, and also a fan of early positive regression on your joke front as well after that.
Yeah, the air yards one was good.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. You're making a comeback. Yeah.
I'm coming all the way back, guys.
Yeah, 100%. You know what you should try, though, if the air yards isn't working, you should try to feed your family free popcorn from the NBC commissary. I'm just saying.
I'm going to need to come up to Stanford, Matthew, and you're going to have to save some for me. I know you will.
Good luck with that part.
100%. Just bring it, look at, because they don't really check it. You could bring like a bucket, like a big, or some sort of, moving.
Holding mechanism?
Yeah, holding mechanism. Like a big bucket. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to what are those things that are like plastic?
I have a vague idea what you're talking about.
Wheelbarrow
Yeah.
popcorn.
Bring a wheelbarrow. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, whatever. Just
Radio flyer wagon.
Yeah, something, anything.
Popcorn behind
anything. Like one of those big plastic tubs, you know what I mean, that you move stuff in.
Jay and I are shivering.
Yeah.
Right now. How about a positive regression from
I'll
you,
help you scoop.
Matthew?
What? Oh, for me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is this guy was in Denny's column, and I like this call a lot, which is Joe Mixon. Now look, Joe Mixon. Not to go all Steve Smith here. I don't think Joe Mixon is great at actual football. I like.
Three.
Look, I mean, he got I think 3 or 4 straight, carries, on the 1 yard line against Arizona last week and could not convert. Having said that, literally no other running back on the Bengals has gotten a red zone touch this season. Every single one of the Bengals' red zone touches this year has gone to Joe Mixon. He's top 5 among running backs in the NFL in terms of most red zone touches. So here's somebody that, I feel like it's an offense that's improving. Joe Burrow is getting healthier. They're going to have to respect the passing game more. T. Higgins is expected back as well. And so Joe Mixon is getting too much work on a good offense to, not be more productive here. Now, again, the only concern is the regression may come in like one game. Remember this happened last year. He was bad, and then he had like 5 touchdowns in one game in like a 55-point, and then he went back to being like just, semi-touchdown dependent. But I do think it's coming. I think there's a chance that it happens against Seattle. He's my running back 14 this week.
Yeah, Denny, obviously you had Mixon in the article. What did you see?
Yeah. I mean, look, Mixon is basically locked in for 20-plus touches in any game where the Bengals have a lot of neutral or positive game script on their side. When things were really bad with Burrow's calf and everything, and they were really struggling in offense, Mixon was basically a non-entity for fantasy purposes. I think going forward, if they can keep this up, what we saw last week against Arizona, and I know it was Arizona, but I think that there were some really great underlying things for that offense. Then, you're plugging in a running back in Mixon who's going to see 20-plus touches, including, like Matthew said, all of the inside the 10, the green zone touches. Those are incredibly valuable.
Jay, what about a negative regression candidate from Denny's piece?
Yep, so I like the call on Kirk Cousins, Denny. You mentioned the green zone. Inside the 10, Kirk has thrown 19 passes. 8 of them have been for touchdowns. A lot of targeting Justin Jefferson in that area. Obviously, he won't be around anymore, so that should regress. At the same time, the Vikings, they do pass the ball a ton. That's just part of the Kevin O'Connell offense. I think that Kirk will be good this week against the Bears defense, even though historically he's been very bad against the Bears, but this isn't your older brother or sister's Chicago defense. No Pete Khalil Mack going around out there. So I think Cousins will be fine this week, but then after that, which starts with the San Francisco defense on Monday Night Football, I think it could be downhill for Kirk.
Yeah, I mentioned him in the column, and then I thought, oh no, he's playing the Bears, and I'm going to look silly now. But yeah, I mean, so I think you are playing him as a QB1 or a borderline QB1, even without Jefferson. But this is a team that passes a lot in the red zone and in the green zone. But a lot of that is funneled to Justin Jefferson for good reason. He tends to be pretty good. So I think that they could actually lean on the run a little bit more, or at least try. We're going to see more 2 tight end sets from Minnesota, I think, which is kind of going under discussed right now. So I do think Cousins is not going to have those easy inside the 10, inside the 5 pass attempts for touchdowns going forward. But great spot this week.
Go read the Regression Files from Denny for more candidates on NBCSports.com and, of course, Rotoworld as well. Denny, always good seeing you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
All right, the toughest competition of the year is here. The biggest talents in men's rugby take the stage as 20 countries compete for 20 days of heart-pounding, hard-hitting action at the Rugby World Cup. Watch every match live on Peacock all the way through the final on October 28th. The game's also available on CNBC. We're going to break. When we're back, what's on tap for the weekend? The games with the highest over-under totals. Tomorrow night, South Bend will set the stage for some of the biggest stars in college football that hope to shine in one of the sport's biggest rivalries as the USC Trojans take on the Fighting Irish under the lights at Notre Dame Stadium. Legacies will be written and bragging rights will be claimed. It's USC Notre Dame tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC and Peacock. What's on Tap is brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. As we take a look here at the matchups with the highest point totals going into the weekend, nothing is as easy to enjoy as a Sunday full of football and a fridge full of beer. But these are the games we're locking in on, starting with Panthers at the Dolphins. Jay, the Dolphins are favored by almost 2 touchdowns in this one. The line, most importantly, is set at 47.5. But all we care about is, can you start anyone on the Panthers besides Adam Thielen in fantasy?
Well, I wouldn't be starting Miles Sanders as he just got ruled out, so it looks like it's going to be the Chuba Hubbard show. Not many people typically watch that show, but he will get a lot of work, we expect, Matthew.
Frank Reich from the podium saying, that it will be mostly Chuba Hubbard that gets the work. Look, he's had 4 straight games with multiple receptions, and in games in his career when he gets at least 12 touches, and we figure he should get at least 12 touches in this game with no Miles Sanders, he's averaging 12 fantasy points per game. Remember this year, the Carolina running backs as a whole have a 21% target share, and so with no Miles Sanders there, again, an offensive line that struggles. Bryce Young is still trying to find his way in the NFL. He's been quick to dump off to running backs, and again, given how this game script is going to go or how we expect it to go, I think Chuba Hubbard becomes a viable PPR flex. I'm at running back 23. I don't know that you're super excited about Chuba Hubbard, but I also think you could do worse and probably have.
Yeah, I also think with some teams on bye that there is a chance that Jonathan Mingo can maybe be flex viable. Like in our show league, I'm going to have to start Cam Akers because I've got no one else at running back. There's no one, so I just need to depend on Alexander Madison losing his job.
Insert Najee Harris joke somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
If I could, I would rather start Jonathan Mingo than Cam Akers because he's averaging 6.5 targets a game. And he's getting work, and surely they're going to have to throw as 2 touchdown dogs.
We just heard, Connor, you just talk about Mingo as well.
Right.
And Denny in the regression files.
Yeah, they're going to have to get him way more involved. And 3 or 4 games, 6+ targets, you like to see that. But I think the targets not all targets are the same.
Right.
They need to drop a little bit of some more schemed up, easier targets for the young player.
Well, and one of the reports that have been coming out of Carolina is that they want to simplify the offense for Bryce Young. And they're trying to, and so one of the ways you do that is dump offs to the running back or quick screens, bubble screens, quick slants to guys like Mingo or Thielen, like just easy pitch and catch kind of stuff that just, doesn't 3-step drop stuff, just boom, boom, get the ball out. And so you could see Mingo, he's my wide receiver 43 again, but if you're desperate, if you're somebody that, I don't know, used a 6th-round pick on Najee Harris,
it's all right.
someone I know.
ADP end of the 3rd round, that's fine.
So anyway, Mingo is somebody that, and you certainly like going forward. DJ Shark also, it's worth noting, I'm at wide receiver 45. Look, if there's a positive for DJ Shark, right? He leads the team in deep targets this season. They may chuck it deep as well. That's what you're hoping for is one big play from him. We've seen him score this season. But I prefer Mingo to Shark if you're swimming in those waters. Also, start every Dolphin. We don't know yet. It's interesting. Just during the break, Mike McDaniel said from the podium that there's a lot of different moving pieces with their roster, and so they're not sure yet if they are going to actually activate Jeff Wilson Jr. for this weekend's game. They may, because of some things that they're going on with the roster, they may feel like they're comfortable with Raheem Mostert and then getting some backup from Savon Ahmed and Chris Brooks. So we will wait to see, but certainly Mostert a must start.
Our next game here, the Cardinals, they're traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams, who are touchdown favorites. The over-under bumped up a little even higher for this one at 49. And Matthew, I'll ask you this one. Is Stafford a top 10 play in fantasy for quarterbacks this week because of the matchup?
Well, I like the fact that you're completely ignoring our full screen there that shows me having his QB 8. So the answer is yes. Yes, he is a top 10
fantasy. You're a mile away at the bar.
Yeah.
With a table in front of my monitor.
Whatever, you've got them young eyes. I've got old man eyes, and I could see it. I could certainly see it. Do we need to get you readers? Here, the fact of the matter is the Rams have the 4th highest implied team total on the slate. We expect a lot of points against an Arizona defense that allows the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. They just revived Joe Burrow last week as well. Stafford's playing really, really well, and they're throwing a ton. He's top 5 in the NFL in pass attempts and passing yards. He's got Cooper Kupp back, obviously Puka Nacua there as well. Higbee, it should be a big day for Matthew Stafford again, who's my 8th best quarterback this week, as many of you saw on your screen.
Yeah, I feel like the Cardinals kind of became themselves last week, where there was a split second there where it looked like they might beat the Bengals. It's like, is this team going to be contending for the playoffs? It's like, no, we're going to be a Caleb Williams team. And I think that just Stafford, as long as he has Kupp and Puka Nacua healthy, I think he's just the start every single week. He'll be a viable starting quarterback in standard leagues.
And the last thing I just want to say here, Keontae Ingram making a lot of progress. Jonathan Gannon from the podium saying he's looked good. We'll see. He's trending in the right direction. If I am forced to start a Cardinals running back, I think it's still Amari DiMarcado, who is their passing down back. Game script, they're a touchdown underdog. They should be throwing more. It'd be Ingram's first game back. I think it'll be a committee, and you'll actually see 2 or 3 touches from Rondale Moore back there as well. But if I'm calling my shot here. Again, ideally you're avoiding the situation until we see how it plays out. But if forced to because of injuries and bye weeks, you have to start one of them. I'll say DiMarcado over Ingram.
Our final game here, the Cowboys at the Chargers. This one is obviously Monday Night Football, and the Cowboys are favored by 2 points. The over-under set at 50.5. Jay, Where's your confidence level in this Cowboys offense bouncing back, starting with Dak, but of course also looking at Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb, the stars of this offense?
Yeah, well, first, this is a massive game. The loser of this game is pretty much done for the division. And look, if there was a different owner and different head coach relationship, you say that if Mike McCarthy was going to lose this, he might be done. Then you'll probably stick around regardless. In terms of their offense, look, this isn't much easier matchup than playing the 49ers. So I think that you feel good about starting CeeDee Lamb because he's CeeDee Lamb. You feel good about starting Pollard because of the work that he gets and his touchdown potential. Dak is a tough one, Matthew. He has not looked good this year, even when he's put up stats. Like his best statistical game was against the Jets, where he really threw a pick six to Sauce Gardner, just went through Sauce's hands. But how do you feel about Dak?
He's had one game with multiple touchdown passes so far this season, under 15 fantasy points in 3 straight games. The pro-Dak argument is all about the Chargers defense, which has allowed over 350 passing yards and 3 touchdowns to 2 different quarterbacks this season, Tua Tagovailoa and Kirk Cousins. They are one of the worst teams in the NFL against the pass. No team is giving up more passing yards per game than the Chargers. So that's the argument, is can he get going? I'm a QB, I have him at QB 10, so I'm expecting like a goodish game here that like, if he can't do it against the Chargers, then you're just absolutely done. I do think he's a streamer, but like, it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't have a great game here. Again, the issue with Dak is he's not running, so it's going to have to be all on his arm, really.
I wonder how much of our perception of Dak Prescott is just skewed by his games against the San Francisco 49ers, because it's just every time he plays them, he is melted, and they've been in such big spots in the playoffs last year, massive Sunday Night Football game last week. You take that out, like I think he's still a very good quarterback. The offensive line is good. It's still CeeDee Lamb. He's still got weapons. He
wasn't great against Arizona, and other than this year, we haven't seen it. He didn't have to do anything against the Giants because they blew him out. I mean, like, he's gotten in these blowout games. He didn't have to do anything against the Jets. So that's my point. And he got lucky with it. That should have been a pick six by Sauce. And so I don't know. Look, the game's at home, right? The game's in
Los Angeles.
Oh, sorry, the game's in Los Angeles.
But it is in a dome, so
it is right.
There'll probably be more Cowboys fans there, though. To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm at QB 10, but I don't feel like rock solid about it. I'm not like you must. Like if you were, and I'll say this too, 50.5 is an over/under. Kind of like the under here. Yeah. Like, I mean, because the Chargers may be limited by the Cowboys, as well. I don't know. It's a good defense, and could the Chargers step up, especially because the Cowboys offense hasn't looked explosive this year? I like the under here, but I do think Dak is usable this week as a QB 10. I do think it'll be a better day for CeeDee Lamb, for Tony Pollard, for Dak Prescott, for the Cowboys you care about, for Jake Ferguson as well.
Yeah, I kind of like Dak this week just because I think this is the best chance to be the most normal game that he's played this season, because I think the Cowboys have outscored their opponents like 110-13 in their 3 wins, and then their 2 losses, they've just been blown out. So I think that just with Herbert and that offense, I think this is going to be a more normal game, and that will allow Dak to throw more.
Chargers give up the 2nd most fantasy points to wide receivers, the 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and the 7th most fantasy points to running backs. So again, if Mike McCarthy's offense can't get any track against the Bolts, then it is pure panic time.
Austin Eckler expected to return in this game, and a sneaky revenge spot for Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
Sneaky revenge spot.
You don't think Kellen Moore wants to put up some points?
Oh, he certainly does. That'll do it for
Maybe
What's on Tap.
I'm off the under. I'm back on the over.
Easy to Sunday, easy to enjoy. We're going to break when we're back. Last call. We got pickup lines for Barry. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code BARRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. All right, let's jump into some pickup lines for Matthew. This is the time of the show where Jay and I will throw a bet at him, and he gets to only choose one. Here's our matchups with the largest spreads of the week.
They try to pick me up. Unlike Buffalo, where it just sort of happened naturally.
Yes,
they have to use actual bets.
Jay, what do you got for him this week?
Yes, Matthew. I've got Drake London over 44.5 receiving yards. I know Denny mentioned in the Regression Files that long-term doesn't look great for Drake London, but this week, going up against your Washington Commanders,
Yeah, I'm
against
aware.
your Emmanuel Forbes, against your abomination of a secondary.
Yes.
I think that as a number one wide receiver, Drake London is averaging 7.5 targets the past 4 games, had his best game of the season last week. Desmond Ridder just had his best game of his career. And after that, I don't think they're going to be like, oh, Bijan, now you carry the ball 30 times coming off your best ever game, Desmond Ridder, in a dome against a weak defense. Drake London is the number one wide receiver. I think he'll get at least 45 receiving yards.
Okay.
Matthew, I'm sticking. See the excitement there. He loves him some Falcons and Desmond Ridder pass game. I'm sticking with the theme of receiver over yards. I'm going Jahmyr Chase, 85.5 against Seattle. A couple things here. Two of the last 3, he's done this. Half of his games last year, he did this. His slot rate usage is up this year. So even if you're worried about DK Metcalf's confidence in the rookie Devin Witherspoon following him around, I think they'll move Chase around. Not that Chase needs to be moved away from anyone. He's one of the best, if not the best receiver in the league. I think Jahmyr Chase goes over 100 again this week against Seattle.
Can't take Jahmyr Chase after I've taken Drake London.
I mean, I have to choose, am I rolling with Joe Burrow and Jahmyr Chase or Desmond Ridder and Drake London? I actually like both bets, and you're right to try to prey upon my knowledge of how bad the Commanders' secondary is. Desmond Ridder does play better at home as well, but it's worth noting the Seahawks are the 3rd worst pass defense in the NFL throughout the season. They've given up the 3rd most passing yards per game. I mean, come on. I like both bets, but I'm going with, Joe Burrow and Jahmyr Chase over 85 receiving yards.
It's fine. Me and Drake will have a great time by ourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe.
By the way, just real quickly, T. Higgins is a game-time decision, so obviously if he does not go, he's going to be officially listed as questionable. But if he cannot go, obviously that would help Chase's efforts there. Some quick updates that have come in throughout the show. Here's who's out. Tank Dell out, still in the concussion protocol. Miles Sanders, who we've talked about, he's officially out. Mike Evans is going to be a full go on Sunday, so that's a great news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Miles Sanders is out. David Njoku is going to be listed as questionable, but Deshaun Watson, his quarterback, is out. Daniel Jones, as we mentioned, officially out. No Jahmyr Gibbs at practice today. Looks like he's trending to not playing. However, Sam LaPorta was back for the Lions. So that's great for the Detroit tight end, Keontae Ingram, heading in the right direction again for Arizona's backfield. But as we said earlier, I like DeMarcado over Ingram if I have to pick the Cardinals' backfield. But we'll get more into this on Sunday. Fantasy football pregame, 11 a.m. Eastern to 1 o'clock. It's on YouTube now. It's on Peacock, and it's on YouTube. We answer more questions than any other pregame show. Use the hashtag FFPregame or just comment on the YouTube show. For Jay and Connor, I'm Matthew Berry. It's closing time. That's what that music means, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. We'll see you Sunday morning for FF Pregame at 11 a.m. Until then, good luck and peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.